move on to 2.4. Explore compound interest.
God, I love financial.
Good. So in that last section, we looked at simple interest. Okay? When something pays simple interest, it's not compounding, obviously, which means that when they put interest, the interest you earn into the account, it doesn't add to your principal to have your new interest computed on, if that makes sense, right? So it doesn't grow as quickly as, say, compounding. And compounding, let's say it's compounded monthly, you know, a savings account. Let's say you put $100 into a savings account, and it pays 10% interest. But I'm just using easy numbers, right? At the end of the first month, right? Let's do it this way. It pays, let's say it pays 12% interest. So what would the monthly rate be? 1%, right? So at the end of the first month, your $100 gets how much added to it? $1, right? So now you have a balance of $101 in your account. And the next month, now instead of being 1% of the 100, it's 1% of the 101, so a little bit higher, right? A little bit more gets deposited and then added to that account, whatever that is, right? 101, $1.01, right? So you have 102.01, and then interest gets paid on that, so it grows more exponentially, doesn't it? Right? The growth gets faster and faster and faster. Remember exponential growth? Yeah, okay. So it's kind of like that. But before we get to the formula, we're going to like walk through where does this formula come from? You know, that B equals, you know, T times 1 plus R over N all of the NT. Remember, no part material when we get there, right? You have to know compounding periods, right? So if something's compounded annually, how many times a year is it compounded? Annually. Once, right? Semi-annually would be how many compounding periods per year?
More than
2. Quarterly would be how many? 4. Monthly?
12,
Weekly?
32,
52.
52,
Daily? 365 times per year, right? You get, right? The annual rate gets divided by 365, right? And then, but every day it goes, so go a little more. So in other words, like the more often it's compounded, the faster it grows, right?
it's only 52 weeks in a year.
52 weeks. So anyway, let's just cut right to an example here. Example 1 should be simple enough. And these are all going to tie together so we can kind of develop a compound interest formula. How much interest would $1,000 earn in 1 year at an annual rate, right? And when you're given the rate, it's almost always an annual rate for a year. And then you have to divide that compound period. $1,000 1 year, 2%, compounded annually. If we're compounded annually, doesn't that just equal simple interest for what the first year? Right? Your first year of interest is really just a simple interest formula, is it not? If it's only compounded annually, you with me? Now, the second year, do a little bit more, and we'll get into that, right? They want to know, what is the new balance? So the rate's 2%. So this is pretty simple. We're going to use simple interest because it's annual for the first year. So we'll have interest equals 1,000 PRT, right? We'll just, in case you forget, I equals PRT for simple interest. Times, what do we multiply by? What do we use for a rate? 2? 0.02. And 1 year, right? Should be able to do that in your head.
I can't find 0.02.
You can't find it? Wouldn't it just be $20? It is. Yeah. $20, right? But what's the new balance? Okay, $1,020. That's easy enough, right? Okay. And that's the extent of that example, but these examples kind of progress into putting together the compound interest. All right, Mercedes?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right. Let's go to example 2. All right, what's going on in example 2? Mercedes, read.
Maria deposits $1,000 in a savings account that pays 2% interest, compounded semi-annually. What is her balance after 1 year?
Okay, so now it's so we're going to use simple interest again, but how many times are you going to have to do it? It's compounded semi-annually. Twice, right? And then like get the new balance and then do the interest on that. You follow me?
No, we just get the annual divided by 2.
That's exactly what we're going to do, right? We got the annual, right? But okay. No, not that. No, not exactly. Not exactly. Hang on. I thought you meant you have to divide the rate by 2, don't you? Right? 5 year. Well, the simple, no, not with the simple. I'm sorry, scratch that. Not with the simple interest. Right? I got ahead of myself. So let's do. We'll call it for year 1. We'll call it interest 1, interest subscript 1, right? So we can keep track of it, right? So that's going to be the $1,000, just like we did up there. But now, for the first year, 6 months, right? What are we going to multiply by? Half a year, 0.5, right? Actually, you might have been correct. Sometimes I think I'm sticking ahead to the count, but whatever.
So that one's $10.
So that is $10, right? So what's our new balance? Our balance sub 1. $1,010, right? You guys with me on that? So that's halfway through the year. A little confused.
Is there
I don't know.
calendar read to me?
Okay. Now let's do the second half of the year. They did this compounding and got this new balance after 6 months, right? So now let's do our second interest addition, I sub 2. We have a new principal now, right? What's our new principal? Times 0.02 times the other 0.5 of the year, right? And what do we get? $10.10. So our new balance sub 2, is going to be 1,010. Well, no. Why would it be 1,020?
Because you're adding it to that. Oh no.
Plus that, I was going to write plus that.
Oh.
So I got you. Yeah, I didn't do it there, right? Oh, I'm not 10. Erase. Erase. Oh, gravy. 10. So now we have a new balance of 120.10. Okay, look at example 1. Only compounded once. In example 2, compounded semi-annually. Which one made more money? Not very much, but the second one, right? Okay.
Is there an equation for the compound interest?
Yep, we're going to get to that. Yep,
That was my question.
we'll get to that. But what we're doing is we're setting up, I hate to just give people equations, right? We're setting up. how we get that equation, sort of, right, where it comes from. Sometimes you kids think somebody just sat down and said, duh! Got an equation here. I think we're all just gonna decide to use this one. It's not how it works, right? Okay? You get the idea, right? I don't think we need to do the check, do we? They do the exact same thing, but starting with like 4,000 compounded semi-annually, right? You get the idea? Here's the interest in the first 6 months. And then we use that balance to get the interest altogether for the next 6 months and add it, get the new balance, okay? Example 3 is pretty much the same as example 1, but only using 0.25. So it's got, okay, example 3, we're not going to do it. We have to do this how many times? In example 3, yeah, we're not going to do it. Look, so I'm just going to write like example 2, but 4 times. All right, and if you understand how to do example 2, it's just compound it quarterly, right? Unless you guys want to run through that. You want to run through that?
What if it was weekly? You had to do it 52.
Moving. Well, then we'll definitely want a formula for that. Okay?
Really?
Well, and also, what if you had it in for 15 years? Right? Even compounded semi-annually. That would be obnoxious too, wouldn't it? Okay? Let's put down to example 4. How much interest is 1,000 earned a day, 2%, now compounded daily? All right, so example number 4. Right. Oh, by the way, Dylan, thinking about your question there, like cutting that in half, right? And I responded, well, you cut for semi-annually, you got to divide the annual rate by 2. Isn't that what we did here? If I multiply that rate, 0.02 times, isn't that dividing it by 2? Right? And if we did it quarterly, we'd do what here? It'd be 0.25, wouldn't it? Right? Which is divided by 4. Okay? I just kind of reconciled a little discussion earlier. I had a moment to think about it. Okay? All right, example 4. How much is 1,000 earned one day? Compounded daily. Okay? So how many compounding periods is that? Okay, so how much of a year is that? So they want 1 day's interest. 1,000 times 0.02, and it's 1/365th of a year. Can we do that? Divided by 365, isn't that the same as multiplying by 1 over, like, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1 over 2, etc. And what does that give us?
4/73.
Right. How about 5 cents, right?
Yeah.
5 cents a day. I mean, you think, oh, that's not much, right? But what do? You're just sitting on your duff, like Call of Duty or whatever it is, right? So what's the new balance at the end of a day? $1,000.05. And so the next day, right, it's that rate applied to this new balance, right? It keeps on girls, a little more quickly than otherwise, right? With me? Okay. What is example 5 doing? What is anything in there? Let's see. Oh, I know why. Yeah, no, we'll do that. So this is kind of like a combination of what we did recently, and they really overcook it. If you flip over to the next page, yeah, we're not going to get nuts there.
That's
Well, Dylan, why don't you read example 5? I'm just going to make a quick little chart, and this will be a lot easier than it looks.
Method of making time. She draws $200 for a card pay. She deposits a $34 check for her health insurance. Her delightful $345.61 paycheck is directly deposited for her balance at the end of the day of July 12th.
Well, it sounds like she has one of those checking accounts that pays a little bit of interest, or 1.2%. So there's something else we have to factor in to our statement, right, from the last section. Let's just make a little box here. Let's just make a little box here. So what we're gonna do, make a little chart. We're gonna do opening balance, right? And then any deposits, and then principal, and then we want interest, and then I want ending balance. Right, and then we're gonna go over here, it's January 7th and 8th, right? So up top here, I'll do Jan 7, Jan 8. All right, oh, I touched it. Just make a little, like a chart thingy here. So I'm gonna do like this, and oh, and it just switched to eraser, and here it goes again.
Can't make that. Probably sort of little.
Is that an undue burden for you?
Hold up.
All right. So just drop these in here. Do like this here. Just make it look like this.
I don't think we don't have that.
I think you'll probably get by. Okay? All right, so on January 7th, 8, why do I have 7 and 8? Well, that's the check. We want to do, I was doing the thing for the check. This is actually the check. Yeah, that's what I wrote there. Hang on, back here. Let's just real quick. Okay, so we have this for the check. We're just going to look. This is just for the check, for example, 5. So I'm not going to write down the way they go through. They kind of overcook it. So let's go over to page 92. So here's what they do, right? So on January 11th, the opening balance is $1234.98, right? And it says she deposited $34 on that day and took out $200. You with me on that? That box in the top. All right, go down to the next blue box. So now there's a new principal, right? So to that $1234.98, they added 34, subtracted 200, right? And so we have a balance of $1,068.98. Okay. Now notice right after that, the day's interest. How did they calculate that? They did it just like we did in the last example, right? We took $1,068.98 times, what was the rate? 0.012 times 1 over 365, right? And they got 4 cents. And then the ending balance is $1,069.02. Okay? So that's at the end of the day, July 11th. Any confusion on that part? So now that ending balance for July 11th becomes what for July 12th? The beginning or opening balance, right? So down in the very last blue box, July 12th. See how that ending balance for the 11th is just copied right up to the top, right? $1,069.02. Once you deposit it, $345, no withdrawals or anything, right? And then we add that, and we get the principal used for the interest, right? $1414.79. The next one is the interest. So it's the $1414.79 times 0.012 times 1 over 365. And so to that balance, they add 5 cents, and you get a new ending balance. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. I'm sorry, I was drawing that. I forgot that I had that as a check there. So the check is January 7th and 8th. So let's see if you guys can work through the check here, what they do. So on January 7th, Joel opened a savings account with $900. Well, where's that going to go? Right here for January 7th. All right? We just put 0.00, a couple decimals. And then deposits. Did she make any deposits that day? No. Okay. But on July 7th, it did earn interest. Okay? So she made no deposits or withdrawals. What's the principal here we're going to use for the interest calculation? Okay. Not, it's still $900. Did I forget a withdrawal? No, she probably didn't make it. Oh, yeah. I would have had a withdrawal column or row if she had made any. All right, so how are we going to figure out the interest on this? It's 900 times what? What's the rate? So 0.021, and compounded how often? Is it daily in this?
Yeah.
So times what? 1 over 365. All right, you guys push buttons and tell me what you get for interest. Round it to the nearest cent. And please, when you do, I want you to whine a little bit more. Makes me feel better.
5 cents.
You get 5 cents? So 0.05. So what's our new ending balance? Okay. Now let's go to January 8th. Well, what's the opening balance for January 8th? We bring that up here. All right. I think she makes a deposit on this day. What was the amount of the deposit? 76.22. All right. So what is her principal after that deposit? 0.27. Okay. I want you guys to do the interest calculation here and tell me what our new balance is after that. It is the same interest rate, 0.012, but it's now it's on a new, slightly larger, right? Let's do this. Let me run this by you. 976.27. Would you guys mind if I combine these two terms here into one number? Watch what I'm going to do. If I'm multiplying, isn't that just 0.021 over 365? See what I'm doing here? Isn't that equivalent? You guys agree? See what I did? Does that bother anyone? Do you understand what I did? I guess it's just the same. Like if I'm going to multiply two numbers, you multiply across the top and the bottom, right? And the top, bottom. And now you just take that times that divided by that. What'd you say you got, Carly? 6 cents?
Yeah.
Right? Round correctly.
Yeah.
So then we get what?
96.32.
76.32, right? And then if we had the January 9th, that would go on the opening balance for the 9th. Okay? So we got how to do that, set that up, right?
Oh, it's 33, not 32 on that.
Is this supposed to be 33? Here?
Yeah.
Is it?
I think, 36 cents.
Yeah, 33. So,
I didn't even realize my error.
no, I trust you. I trust you guys with my life. So I'm going to write down what you say. Okay? So right now we're using the simple interest formula to work out some smaller compound interest situations, right? And tomorrow we'll use this to develop the compound interest formula, right? Anybody have any questions? So what you have to know is how often is compounded per year, right? You multiply it by that fraction or decimal, whether it's, half year or quarter, anything. Right? Good. Okay.